So what good is a spiritual experience if it is not integrated after the experience is had? Now, the spiritual experience gives us a glimpse or some sort of insight into reality, the nature of reality. We experience something beyond our limited perception of reality, life as we know it. But what good is the experience if we go back to living how we always have been living? Not good at all. The experience is basically useless. But after this experience, there's something that's undeniable. There's something that you can't deny, which is that glimpse, which is that insight. It seems like it stays with you. Might stay as a memory, a reminder, a peak experience. But if all it is some memory of a peak experience, then it's practically useless. Whatever the experience was, whatever the insight was, can you live from that place? The experience of love or oneness, the experience of not having any borders or boundaries, the experience of experiencing another as yourself. Whatever the experience was, can you live from that experience? Let that experience just simply be a reminder. Typically, these are peak experiences, these mystical experiences. And then it feels like we come back to reality. In a way, it's inverted. That these mystical experiences are more real than what we are accustomed to experiencing. But it requires something that's fundamental to change. It requires something to do with who you think you are. These experiences happen when the veil of thoughts and feelings thin. When the thoughts and feelings thin, it's as if we get a glimpse of what's on the other side of the veil. We experience reality raw, without the filter of thoughts and feelings. But having these experiences as a reminder on how to or where to live from, living as reality, living from a place of that experience that felt more real than what you're accustomed to. Is very powerful. something starts shifting. Because what you'll notice is if you deny that experience, if you overlook that experience, then you'll notice that the suffering somehow increases. You'll notice that if you reject that experience, it will feel like the reality that you come back to has even more suffering than what you were experiencing prior to that spiritual or mystical experience. There's more contrast. But let this suffering be a reminder as well, or a consequence of not living from a place of truth. That what you experienced was more real than what you are accustomed to experiencing. That you had some profound insight into truth. That you had a glimpse of your true nature. When this is brushed off, when this is resisted or rejected, dismissed, denied, then you'll notice that the suffering increases. It's about living in alignment with that experience. This is then integrating that experience. And what you'll notice is something starts shifting. Because you're aligning yourself with truth, you'll start noticing that that suffering becomes less. You'll start noticing that things start parting, a pathway. Life starts feeling more graceful. The experience of life is more graceful. It's as if this spiritual experience is an intervention. And after the experience, you continue to go your old way. But this time when you go your old way, you're met with more suffering. And the suffering that you experience appears to be something that is redirecting you. That there was the intervention, and because you didn't go in the direction of what you had an insight into, or a glimpse, or a taste, and you go back to your old way, you're then met with even more suffering. And that suffering is appearing to redirect you in the opposite direction. This experience, this intervention, could also be seen as an invitation to something beyond your current experience, that there's something more to life than what you are experiencing. So then there's this spiritual experience, which is like an invitation to something beyond life as you know it. And instead of following that invitation, instead of being open to that invitation, you close and you go back to your old ways. You dismiss what you see. You deny it. Bury your head in the sand. Well, then you're met with even more suffering. Which seems to want to redirect you, turn you around. What about that invitation that you received? What about that insight? What about that glimpse? You're going the wrong way. This is not it. There's something more. It's like it's giving you a little push in the opposite direction. And you might notice that there's this little dance that happens when I align myself with that experience, when I align myself with truth. I'm not experiencing the suffering. I'm experiencing more of what I experienced in that invitation. It's really this pull. It's really grace. It's your true nature calling you home. It's the invitation to go back home, where even suffering is seen as grace. There's a nice experience. There's an invitation. There was a calling. And that's grace. But when that's dismissed, then the suffering is turned up. There's more of this fire burning. It's a push towards the calling. It's a push towards the invitation. It's a push in the right direction. It's redirecting you home. So when this is seen, even suffering is seen as grace. So what you'll find is when you're in alignment with that calling, when you're in alignment with truth, when you're in alignment with what was experienced as more real than real in that mystical experience, in that spiritual experience, you start realizing that life is just more graceful. There's more of this opening. This guidance within becomes available. Life becomes more effortless. It's as if you're getting pulled. Pulled back home. Pulled back to yourself. Hopefully this helps. I'll see you in the next one.